I'm just going to just share with you sort of where I am today and where I've been. Last night, I went to bed early last night, really early, maybe 10, can't remember. And I kept thinking about what's a Dharma talk? What's the Dharma talk that I can give on Saturday? I've got to have something to say. I mean, I knew that Nicholas was coming, and so he's very judgmental, so I had to think of, I'm just kidding. John's the one who's judgmental. But really, I lay there in bed, and my mind was just, so I was going through. So now I'll go through a Rolodex, right? I mean, over the past 20 years, I mean, I don't know how many Dharma talks have I given. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. So I was going through the Rolodex, and then I love the five skandhas. That's always a winner, right? And then what Jane and I were teaching, right? Stopping the mind, and examining, or stopping the mind and realizing, which I like even, or Tara Brock's. I started to say pregnant pause, but it's sacred pause. And it was really interesting because as I lay there, and I mean, it was clear I wasn't going to come up with anything. I mean, number one, I didn't even have a fantasy that, that all of a sudden, right, I knew that wasn't going to happen. But the other thing that was interesting was experiencing how much it was like a film over maybe you call it a film over the mind. It was just thoughts, right? Coming, and there was no parting of the clouds. There was no space of seeing or maybe just being in silence. Did anyone ever have that experience of not having a space of silence in your mind? Cassie said she does. Come on. Let's all be real here for a minute. Because the space between thought is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Because when there's no thought, you suddenly are. Right? You just are. There ain't nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong when there's this kind of space of silence. So anyway, so my mind was doing that, and then suddenly came the awareness, just this awareness of, that's all it was, just thoughts. And so they pretty much went away, and I went to sleep. That was just fine. I woke up this morning thinking, what am I going to talk about for a Dharma? So I guess I'll come back to this, maybe that space. Maybe I'll come back to it. So I said that I wanted to share just where I am. So the other little piece of that maybe kind of integrates into this, and it maybe not, but I got a really interesting email from someone this week, really very good. This is someone who has become increasingly sensitive to or aware of a kind of a core dissatisfaction inside. Just this little, there's just something that's just dissatisfied. And this was sort of like, to some extent, big news to this person, right? It's like, this is someone who has sat with us, and is a serious meditator. Actually, I think this person's been sitting for over 10 years, and pretty serious. But I think for whatever reason, they never really descended into that place where they really were experiencing that little part that's always looking for a better moment. Always looking for, it's like this moment right now. And so raise your hand if you think this moment's good enough. Does anyone think this moment right now is good enough? Is it good enough? Or instead, there would be a tendency of wanting, right? Kind of grasping. It's a kind of a grasping feeling, a wanting this is not enough, right? This is not enough. Surely to God, there's something better than this, right? And I mean, for instance, like I could have more money. I like a new car. But anyway, so this was like a big deal for this person, and I was really pleased that this person was, because I thought, now see, that's like when the Buddha says that the universal first noble truth is suffering, right? I had said to this person, I said, what's dissatisfaction? It's suffering. It's just a nice word, right? Dissatisfaction is nicer than suffering sounding, isn't it? But so this was like a really kind of an important moment for this person. So they went to a Zen center about maybe a month ago, and they were talking about this to the teacher. And so the teacher said, all you could, and I don't mean this, the teacher was listening, and they said, the thing that you have to do is you have to be mindful, and you have to watch that dissatisfaction. You have to see it. You stay with it. You see the dissatisfaction. So anyway, the person emailed me, as I said this week, I got the email, and they said, okay. So they said, I see the dissatisfaction, and the teachers then said, you got to be mindful of it, right? And he said, now what? I just thought that was wonderful. I just loved it. And then, and so then he went on with about a sentence, and then he said, so what do I do next? Right? And so I thought, it's a great question, isn't it? It's a great question. Now what? Right? I've been doing this practice. I've been practicing mindfulness, right? Cindy's saying, I've been practicing mindfulness for a few years now, right? And Victor started, fussing about the fact that you can't have mindfulness without concentration. So I've even been doing a little samadhi practice and getting that to. I'm doing it. So now what? What is the connection? What is the next thing? Is there a next thing? So I don't know where I'm going with this, by the way. I don't have a clue. I really don't. Is there anything that you can do? Can you do, Cindy? Well, now maybe there is. You don't know the answer to this. Or maybe you do. So Cindy says, I said, is there something you're going to do? And she, so I think, I guess, what I wanted to say right here is that maybe it is really true that, so you do this, you learn, you believe, you have some faith that this makes sense, and that the mindfulness is, that you develop mindfulness, and so that it's like that takes you to a certain edge, and then you look over across the canyon to the other side, and then you say, but how do I get from here to there? And I'm going to just say a few things about that. And it's really true that you can't really, I think, as Cindy said, you can't make it happen. You can't force yourself to go beyond the fact. So you look at this, you recognize dissatisfaction in yourself, right? You recognize it, you see it, and you begin to say, oh my God, right? I mean, that it's unending. It goes on and on. It can get more and more subtle, by the way, but it's still there, right? And then you recognize that, and so then it is mindfulness that allows you to recognize it in the first place. And so his question, now what? I just think it's an important question, and I think I wrote him back, and I thought, wow. One thing I said, is it too tacky to say the thing about how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Is that too tacky to say practice, man, practice? I don't think that. Maybe it is too tacky to say that, or not tacky, but not helpful. So so now this is kind of like a little bit of a leap, but this is actually where I've been last night and yesterday morning. So I'm just switching pretty seriously. I'm trying to let the mind settle down. It's been really just a remarkable 2 days, hasn't it? I mean, just a remarkable 2 days. Israel invades Hamas. Well, first of all, you go back, so 3 teenagers are kidnapped and murdered, just murdered. And then a lot of people start cheering. That's really great, you know? And then, before you know it, then somebody else captures someone on the other side, a Palestinian boy, and they apparently set him on fire while he's alive. There's probably some people that cheered on the other side. I mean, maybe not, but probably. But so I'm, I think all of you, I mean, I don't think anybody's not paying attention to that and kind of just horrified at the inhumanity, the unbelievable absence of love and care. And as I read, because I'm so fascinated about all of this stuff, it's like, if I wanted to think of a sentence that describes both sides, I am right. I am right. That's what makes it run, right? That's what keeps the wheel running. I am right. How many people in this room, and I'm going to include myself, right? How many people think that they are right? I mean, does anybody think that you are right? Or better still, is there anybody in here that thinks that they're not right? I mean, I don't think it's possible. I doubt. I mean, if you do think that you're not right, that could be either you flip to the other side, which is just the ego without, the ego's flipped over so that it feels horrible, so it doesn't think it knows anything, or it's on this side. But so then of course somebody shoots down a plane with 294 people on it. And again, it's like, it's just extraordinary. I listened to President Obama talking yesterday, and some part of me wanted him to really be aggressive, and say Putin is really this bad person. I really kind of some part of me wanted him to do that, but he actually kind of refused to do that. In some ways, I admired him for that. I admired him for a certain amount of not equanimity, but let's just say caution, circumspection. And because Putin immediately said that the Ukrainians did it. I mean, he didn't hesitate, right? He said those Ukrainians blew that plane down, which of course we all know that that's probably not true. But it was so amazing to watch how, again, one side was right and one side was wrong. The separatists, and I was reading like people who live in eastern Ukraine who said they could not have done it, the separatists, right? They were sure that they couldn't have done it. And then the Ukrainians said the Russians did it. Putin said the Ukrainians did it. A Dutch, one of the sort of someone fairly high up in the government, I don't remember the name, but someone said they were very careful about blaming Russia. And then this guy said, well, he said, it's very easy for America, the United States, to take the moral high ground because they're so large, they're big, but we're like a little small country. So, and they kind of depend on their trade with Russia. So they were being very careful and non-blaming. So if you get the drift of what I'm saying is that it's extraordinary how much we get locked into this conviction that we are right. And then the other side is wrong. It's just amazing. And, I said that our president was kind of circumspect, but he doesn't hesitate to blame the other side for every problem in this country. He doesn't hesitate to blame the conservatives and the Republicans. So, I mean, he does it too. Everybody does it. The conservatives blame him. They blame the Democrats. The Democrats blame the conservatives. It's clear that all of our problems are one side or the other. So, that's a big problem. That's a very big problem that we have, isn't it? I mean, isn't it? So, what would it be like to not have an opinion, a view, that you're right, your side is right, and the opposite view is wrong? What would that be like? Can you imagine that? Can I imagine that? Not separating myself out and judging the Palestinians for kidnapping those 3 children, or judging the Jewish extremists for then retaliating, or judging the separatists for shooting down a plane, or on and on and on and on. Can you imagine wanting to not judge? I'm really serious. I mean, can you imagine wanting to not see one side as bad and the other side as good? Because I'm really curious. I mean, I think of myself, because I have my own opinion about who's right and who's wrong. I really do, right? I have my opinion of right and wrong, and who's good and who's bad. The children at the border in Texas, right? Everybody splits down. One side is terrible, and the other side is, we're just good. I mean, basically speaking, if you agree with me, aren't you good, right? I mean, if someone agrees with you, aren't they good? Aren't they on the right side? I mean, that's the way I feel. So, the reason why I do think it's extraordinary what has been going on just in the past 2 or 3 days, and we're experiencing the ego, the clinging to self. It's incredible how we're experiencing the downside of it, the downside of splitting into good and bad. So the reason why I sort of took that little detour is, to come back to the practice that we're doing and the dissatisfaction that we feel, and then his question, where do we go from here? And so here's what I kind of would like to suggest to you all, and certainly what I have found in my own life. Until the practice takes you to a place where you start seeing that your thoughts are just thoughts, they're not right. Until we see the reality that thoughts are just thoughts, and they're going to be conditioned by who you are. If you're conservative, you're going to have conservative thoughts, and you're not going to like liberals. You're going to really think liberals are bad people. I promise you. I mean, maybe there's an exception in this room. If you're conditioned towards liberalism, your thoughts are going to be, that's good, and conservatives are bad. If you're Jewish, you're going to be conditioned to think the Palestinians are bad. If you're a Palestinian, you're going to be convinced that the Jewish people are bad. Blah, blah, blah. Ukrainians hate the Russians unless they live on the eastern part of Ukraine, and then they speak Russian, and then they like Russian. And they hate Kiev. It's endless. It's endless. I mean, it's endless. No one escapes that. If you think anyone, listen to this, and I'm including myself, if we think that we escape the conditioning of our personality, it's not true. Our thoughts are conditioned by our personal biases. So how do you get out of that? And that goes back to his question. So what's next? How do you get out of that? There's only one way to get out of it. You practice to the degree that you start really looking separate from your thoughts and you begin to see them as thoughts, not as me. As long as you think a thought and you say, that's me thinking that, you're lost in your thoughts, as I was last night. What am I going to talk about tomorrow? It just sounds totally real to me, right? Lying there in bed, oh my God, I don't have a what am I going to talk about tomorrow? So I'm really thinking about it. I was fueling it. What was fueling it? This idea there's a me inside that's going to give a Dharma talk today. I was buying it. I bought that. There was nothing that for a moment that saw that it was just thoughts, just going through, passing through the head. So thank God I have practiced enough, right, for 30 years, that every once in a while I'll be doing that and suddenly it's like the clouds just part. Just like that. And then there's a space of silence. Nothing is there. There ain't no Victor. Because if there's Victor there, then he believes what he's thinking. If there's Andrea there, she believes her thoughts, they're bound to be real because I thought them, right? How could my thoughts not be real? The only way that your thoughts, and I'm not saying even, you could argue that, a dream is real if you had it, right? So I'm not saying that thoughts are not real, but they're definitely, I would say that thoughts are not necessarily to be believed. Every act of violence that has occurred in the past week has come from a thought, hasn't it? Everybody, shooting the rocket went up, shot down that plane. Hey, we got another plane. We made a mistake. It was commercial. I thought it was a military plane. That's all thought. Every bit of that is thought. You could argue, that it was, it certainly is fueled by hatred, isn't it? But thoughts are fueled by greed, hatred, or delusion. That's what fuels your thought, my thought. One thought's greedy. Did anyone ever have a greedy thought? Well, I have never had a greedy thought in my life. Or aversion. I had such fun looking at Marta and Cindy against those two walls back there because I thought those people do not like crowds. Hey, we could argue that you just needed some of your back, right? You just needed to support your back, but it really was funny. Here we are sitting there, as Marta over there, and there's Cindy over there, like bookends, right? And now, if we agreed, hatred, and aversion, which is the aversion types in the room? Well, they're going to always be the furthest back that they can get. The deluded types don't know what. They don't know where they are, so they could just be anywhere. And the greedy types kind of like they want to be close. So this has really sort of happened more and more and more for me in the past year or in the past 2 years. It is more and more clear to me that the practice has to be about looking at your thoughts, watching your thoughts, nothing else. I mean, to a certain point, until you get to a certain point, like focusing on the body is just fine and dandy. It's good focusing on the sensations, the rise and the fall. I mean, I'm not putting any of that down because we have to learn, we have to sort of develop the instrument. But as long as you and I believe our thoughts are something that have, as long as we give them authority, let's put it that way. That's what Ruth Dennison always said. She was great. Ruth Dennison would go in with her thick German accent. Why do you give your thoughts authority? She would say that to us, and we'd look at her. What does she mean? But because she was relentless, just relentless on us. I used to sit with her many different retreats, but it was wonderful, because she was saying, why do you give your thoughts authority? I want this, I don't want this, I like this, I don't like this, whatever the thoughts are. Why do you give your thoughts authority? Why give the thoughts authority to kidnap 3 children and kill them? Or thoughts to then retaliation, well, I'll show him, and so then they kidnap a lovely young boy and set him on fire. And we all do it. Obama does it, and Romney does it, right? And Nicholas does it, and Victor does it. We all do it. We read the movie and make the movie real. We believe our thoughts. And so what I would say to the guy who emailed me and said, what's next? That's what I would say to him. You must watch your thoughts. You must watch your thoughts. Krishnamurti said, watch every sentence, every paragraph. And I don't think anyone was in the past that I know of, in the past 100 years, I can't think of anyone who was more focused on that than Krishnamurti, because that was his thing. Watch your thoughts. So how do you do that, right? I mean, you practice. You do this, what we're doing. And so I watch everybody, and I watch you all, some of you getting sleepier and sleepier as we were going through, and some of you not getting sleepy, and it doesn't matter. But I think to myself, do they know what they're doing? Do they know how important this is? It's not, like trying to walk slowly and mindfully. It really isn't. It's nice. It's lovely, right? It's watching this crap and beginning to understand that if you just begin to see that it's just talk, then you begin to, it's like I just said, and this is like, everybody, this is not original, but the clouds part, the clouds are the thought, and there's no sense of essence. Essence can't come through. It can't come through. And when they part, it's just, there's just you. There's just Janine. And if she's sitting here right now thinking that it's like everybody, and that includes me, tremendously includes me. We're all stuck in our minds, more or less. Everybody is. And if you think you're not, you're foolish. You're just foolish. And when you start looking and start experiencing those little moments, right, of absolute stillness, then you're on your way. And just like the guy said, like, what's next? You're on your way to what Jesus said. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free, right? When we go to our Long Reach meditation, has anyone noticed that when you turn down 7th, have you, Andrew, when you turn off of Alamedos down 7th Street on your way to our center, that there's a big, it's actually a school, a Catholic school, but it says up there, John something, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It's absolutely true. The truth is that you are not your thoughts. That's the truth. That's what the truth is. You're not any of those thoughts. You are silence and awareness. And that's not enough for some of us, apparently. Right? I want more than that. I don't want to be silence and awareness, for God's sakes, right? So, so I guess I'm finished. It's really I don't know how we do this except what we're doing right this minute. I don't know how you do it, you know? I mean, it's like we're going to all get in our cars and go back to our lives, right? And the 10,000 things, as they say, right? But how do you do this? How do you do this incredible aspiration of seeing that you're not your thoughts, unless you're willing to, sacrifice? Everybody, you're sacrificing today. Really. You had to sacrifice, your regular Saturday, right? Your fun Saturday, so to speak. We all had to sacrifice, right? Didn't we? And certainly I've been to enough all-day retreats, and why am I doing this? What's the point of this, right? But the sacrifice is that you put yourself in a position of beginning to watch the mind, watch the thoughts, and if you can remember then that what you're doing is extraordinarily important, then it's easier to do it. It's easier to suffer through the discomfort and the sleepiness and all of the stuff where the mind starts screaming and saying, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. Okay, so that's all I have to say. So we're going to do yoga. So what we'll do is we'll just have a little, it won't kill us to do over an hour, will it, Travis? Yeah, it may. So we're going to do the yoga. We might start about 5 minutes early, but let's just kind of like walk for about 20 minutes or less, and then we'll do yoga. Okay? And thank you.